In the year 1162, somewhere between the endless grasslands of Mongolia and the frozen edge of Siberia, a child was born clutching a blood clot in his fist. To the people of the steppes, this was not strange. It was a sign that this boy would become something the world had never seen before. His name was Temujin. The world would come to know him as Genghis Khan. In just 25 years, the army he built conquered more territory than Rome had managed in 4 centuries. By the time he died, his empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea, 10 million square miles of land, an area larger than the entire African continent. He was the most successful military commander in human history. And it all started with a boy abandoned on the steppes with nothing. Temujin's father was a local chieftain, which meant the family had status, until the day his father was poisoned by a rival tribe, and the status evaporated overnight. Temujin was 9 years old. The tribe looked at this fatherless boy and his grieving family and made a calculation. A tribe needs a strong leader. This child was not one. They left, just like that. The family was alone in one of the harshest environments on earth, surviving on whatever the land was willing to give them. It was in those years, hungry and exposed on the open steppes, that Temujin was shaped into what he would become. He killed his half-brother during this period, a brutal act driven by the desperate logic of survival. He began to lead. He found a blood brother in a young man named Jamuka, and together they started building something from nothing. When Temujin was old enough, he married a woman named Borte, and with her came not just a companion, but the fighting force of her tribe. For the first time, he had real numbers behind him. Then the Merkits came. They raided his camp and took Borte. Temujin did not accept this. He went to the local Khan, called in every alliance he had, assembled an army, and went north into the mountains. He took his wife back. He destroyed the tribe that had taken her. And he learned something in the process that would define everything that followed. Swift, decisive, total action. Never half measures. Never hesitation. As his power grew, so did the friction between him and Jamuka. The two men saw the world differently at their core. Jamuka believed that birth determined worth. Noble blood deserved noble rank. Temujin believed in something radical for his time and place. Talent was talent, wherever it came from. The best man for a role got the role, regardless of where he was born or who his father was. This was not just a philosophy. It was a military strategy, and it was devastating in its effectiveness. The split between them was inevitable. And 2 years after they parted ways, Jamuka attacked Temujin's tribe, outnumbered and unprepared. Many were slaughtered. The generals Jamuka captured were boiled alive. Temujin heard what happened and made a promise to himself that he would never be caught exposed again, and that he would have his revenge. That revenge came in 1204, in a battle that would decide the fate of the Mongol people. Temujin was a different commander by then. His warriors trained in archery and horsemanship from the time they could ride, and their composite bows, built from wood and animal bone, could kill at 500 yards. On the eve of the battle, Temujin ordered every warrior to light 5 fires. Jamuka's scouts reported back an army of incomprehensible size. Fear spread through the enemy camp before a single arrow was fired. When dawn came and the armies advanced, Temujin unleashed a storm of arrows, then drove cavalry charges into the gaps. When the moment was right, he feigned retreat, pulling Jamuka's forces into a prepared ambush where they were cut apart. The victory was total. Jamuka fled, was betrayed by his own generals, and was brought before Temujin in chains. Temujin offered him a second chance. Jamuka refused it. He was given an honorable death, which was more than most enemies received. And finally, the Mongol tribes were won. In 1206, Temujin was granted a title that recognized what he had become. Genghis Khan, universal leader. He turned his eyes east toward China. He knew the Chinese emperor would never tolerate a unified Mongolia on his border, so he struck first. The Mongol army moved through China, burning and breaking everything in its path until it reached Zhongdu, the capital of the north, the city that would one day be called Beijing. The walls were 40 feet high. The Mongols had never seen anything like them. Genghis Khan did not panic. He captured Chinese engineers and put them to work designing siege equipment. He camped outside the walls and cut off every supply line into the city. He waited. Inside, the population began to starve. Thousands died. Some turned to cannibalism. When the Mongols finally moved to take the city, the resistance they met was a fraction of what it should have been. What followed was a month of plunder that announced to the world exactly who Genghis Khan was and what he was capable of. He died in 1227 during his final campaign back into China. His last recorded words, according to the secret history of the Mongols, were that he had conquered a vast empire, but that his life had been too short to take the whole world, and that task he left to those who came after him. He was buried in an unmarked grave. Everyone who attended the funeral was executed to keep the location secret. To this day, no one knows where he lies, but the legacy he left behind is impossible to ignore. One recent study suggests that 1 in every 200 people alive today is a direct descendant of Genghis Khan. Under his rule, the Mongols built one of the most surprisingly progressive societies in the ancient world. Rank was earned, not inherited. Religion was tolerated, not weaponized. The Silk Road was reopened and protected, and along it flowed goods, ideas, and technologies that helped ignite the Renaissance in Europe. Paper, gunpowder, the compass, all moving west through a corridor of trade that Genghis Khan had made safe enough that it was said a man could walk its entire length, carrying a plate of gold and never be touched. Was he a monster? By any modern measure, the violence he unleashed was staggering. Cities were erased. Populations were destroyed. The death toll runs into the millions. That is not something to minimize simple enough to hold a single verdict. The man who ordered those deaths also built a legal system that applied equally to everyone under his rule. He abolished the enslavement of Mongols. He created a society where a person's worth was measured by what they could do, not who they were born to. He came from nothing, a boy abandoned on the steppes, cold and hungry and entirely alone. And from nothing, he built the largest connected land empire the world has ever seen. Whatever you make of the man, the scale of what he achieved is almost impossible to comprehend. And the world he left behind, for better and for worse, was not the same world he entered.